Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Square Circle Podcast. I am your host, Marie Shadows, and that is my usual intro for the Square Circle Podcast because I really don't know what to open up this podcast with. I want to ask each and every one of you guys, what wrestling are you currently watching right now? Because I have been in the lab behind the scenes making brand new content for the Square Circle Podcast and for everyone to enjoy and the whole entire brand of Marie Shadows and wrestling and all of that. And I've been doing it very quietly, not so quietly. If you follow me on Twitter at Marie_Shadows, you will know that I've been trying to grow my new Instagram account, which is at Your Fave Marie Shadows, which is URFAV and then Marie Shadows. And I've been growing my YouTube and Spotify and my memberships and all of that, just so that way I could be a little bit more comfortable in the space of content creation and do things that are a little bit different and pivot, because I've been talking about professional wrestling as a podcast and professionally for the past 6 years. And sometimes you have to realize that in this game that you have to pivot. And if you just stay within the niche, you're really not going to grow. You can do all the crossovers and collaborations with other wrestling content creators in the space, and you get to mix your audiences together, and hopefully the collaborators' audience will come over to your side and support your videos and support your content. But 9 times out of 10, that is not really going to happen. And then if you stay within the box and stay within the bubble and stay within the delusion of what you like, only what you like, and gatekeep what you like, you are never going to grow. I have really learned a lot just by observing on Twitter, where you get to see the most delusional takes. You get to see all of the people that decided to run to Blue Sky to come right back and start crying about wrestling and start trying to gatekeep and be as mean and as, you know, being a sicko for AEW can be. And even on the WWE side for a few people, but it's not as amplified as an AEW sicko, as if like wearing the word sicko is a badge of honor for all the AEW fandom. But the supposed sicko leader, Tony Khan, had once tweeted out that, like, please do not gatekeep AEW. We need these new viewers. We need these new fans that if they want to come over from WWE, we need them because all of our numbers are down. But I would never tell you guys our numbers are down. The AEW sickos definitely came after me, or tried to come after me at least, when I said that finally it took Tony Khan 6 years to tell people not to gatekeep AEW, not to be toxic, not to scare them off, because they've been doing a good job of it and it doesn't seem like AEW is growing. No matter what you say, the metrics say different. And I know that we can't take the metrics as gospel, but they are a guide, and what you use to scale a business and what you use to make sure that your business is growing. And if you want to do like ideas and stuff like that on a whiteboard, you follow the guide, because the guide tells you these are the many people that are watching AEW that are either on streaming and or on cable, or maybe both. But again, since AEW is an LLC, meaning that they are a limited liability company, they get to keep everything private. Not even David Metzler knows. And I will keep saying that, because AEW is a private company. Tony Khan can say whatever he wants. Tony Khan can say, we're doing good, just like he did when he was doing media press over in France. And it's like, bro, how many times can you say the word great in a 10-minute interview? Say some other stuff, man. You've been doing this for a couple years now, where you get to talk to media and you still don't know how to talk to media. Deflecting is what he does best. And if he doesn't deflect, because maybe an AEW sicko might hear this and might come into the comments, let me know the numbers, the true numbers. And I need those numbers from Tony Khan. Did Tony Khan, in any of his interviews, ever once say the numbers recently for what they got for max streaming and cable? You cannot leave a comment that says, oh, the numbers must be positive, so it's okay. It doesn't really matter. It does matter. Even though we talk about numbers, and I don't want to make this whole thing about numbers, but the thought of it is that numbers count. And anything can happen in the world of entertainment, and anything can happen with contracts. People could be like, oh, you guys are not really doing well, so, we're going to dismantle this contract or renegotiate it right now, and these are the new terms and deals and stuff like that. Anything can happen in business. Business is never really set in stone. Anything can happen. And the fact that people online think that everything must be in black and white and there is no gray area, where the gray area is usually like the exceptions and the ideas and perspectives of like, well, yes, you have a contract, you read your terms and services, and these are the deliveries that you're going to give to the person that is giving you the contract. You sign it and you must adhere to it. However, if you decide to break it, then that's it. That's like a black and white kind of moment. But if at any point they feel like they want to renegotiate the contract to make it easier for you guys to hit certain metrics, that is the gray area. And for some reason, people on Twitter, people online, and media all over the world never really wants to think about certain types of issues in the gray area. Their tactic is to make you scared, so that way it could just be either this or this and nothing else. When there's always an exception to almost everything that we talk about, everything that we create, everything that we think about. There's always like an exception to something. It may or may not apply to everything that we do, but in the world of contracts, there's always that gray area unless you really don't do any of the deliveries that are asked within the said contract. And they're like, nah, you got to go, and they just terminate it and you got to find something else. That's a whole nother story of just like, that's it, plain and simple. Also, I will be posting up my tweets over on my new Instagram account. If you're not following the Instagram account, it is at your fave Marie Shadows, URFAV Marie Shadows. And I usually have like a what I tweeted today kind of post over there. So if you want to take a look at that, that will be fantastic. We're going to talk a little bit more about AEW, and then we're going to switch over to New Japan Pro Wrestling very quickly because I want to go over the G1 and tell you where I stand with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So first of all, let's continue on with a little bit more AEW. AEW yesterday had their AEW X CMLL event, which is a joint event. It has to be a joint event. Like, don't tell me anything different. They went over to Mexico to face CMLL wrestlers because that is their other partners. And it wasn't really looking too good on the timeline about it. And it's like, man, WWE presented AAA very well when they had Worlds Collide. AAA felt like a major player on a grand stage, and it was fantastic. Of course, AEW doesn't know how to do that. The AEW wrestlers don't know how to do that at all. They don't know how to make their partners look like $1,000,000 in adjacent to them. And it's like, what are we doing? Seriously, what are we doing? I know my mutuals wanted me to have some commentary on Mercedes Moné picking up another belt, being a belt collector. Usually I would say championship title or titles, but for her it is belts because she does not care. You have to stop this narrative. And when I say you, I should be like you guys. The people online on Twitter, because it gets frustrating for people to just parrot and say that she's the greatest for this. She elevates women's wrestling. No, she doesn't. If you are constantly trying to get all the belts in professional wrestling and you are not defending these belts at said promotions, how are you elevating the women's division in each of these promotions? How are you doing that? You are not having matches on a daily basis or at least once a month in different countries to defend the honor of holding that belt for that promotion that they put it on you because they think that your name means something. Her name got damaged the moment that she changed it to Mercedes Moné. Now she thinks that she's big shit, and it's like, no, you're not. You would have still had some acting jobs that fell through. You would have still been on the red carpet. She did everything so fast post WWE, all the things that she wanted to do on her bucket list rather than enjoying it. And then now sweeping through professional wrestling to grab titles and belts that are going to not mean anything to the promotions. Why are the women in the promotions that she has beaten, how can they haven't put up any type of social media content to be like, Mercedes, how dare you take the belt from this promotion? Now what are we going to do? You're never here. We're here showing up day in and day out. But you say that you're elevating women. You say that you're the best. Like, why is there no promo being cut on Mercedes Moné from the other women in the promotions? Why are we so scared to use social media to our advantage, to start some drama, to start some angles, to start some matchups? That's how you get the belt off of her. That's how you create intrigue, whether or not the other woman is going to win and beat her, because Mercedes Moné wants to be the one on top. She wants to be undefeated because she thinks that all attention has to be on her. And it's like, wrestling, I say this all the time, guys. Wrestling is a we effort. W-E. It is a we effort. It is not an I effort. There are certain times in professional wrestling where you can be I. But the majority of professional wrestling, it is a we effort. It takes two to tango, in that ring, to make a wonderful story, to make something intriguing for fans to spend their hard-earned money on a ticket, on merchandise. Just because you could collect belts doesn't mean that you're the best in the world. Kenny Omega did it. I know he did. And I know people are like, oh, this is not fair, or a fair critique or whatever, because nobody was saying it when Kenny Omega was double champion and this champion and that champion. And it's like, yeah, we did complain, except that, nobody really wants to remember that. But we did complain when Kenny did the same thing. The only problem is that one person decided to be like, I will defend this and I will show up at the promotion. Mercedes Moné is just not showing up at these promotions. She's not booked outside of AEW for a while. But then to come into CMLL, into Mexico, to win that championship title as if the CMLL women's champion, Zexus, I apologize for mispronouncing her name, but she's been there forever. And then here comes Mercedes to just take the belt and be like, I'm the best. And it's like, you don't even go here. I can understand if they had a build-up where Mercedes was in Mexico for a little while to build up the story, to have matches with the other women as like a gauntlet match, to train until she gets to her main opponent, which was the former CMLL champion. Like, that makes an intriguing story, and then show that on the AEW YouTube channel and make sure that commentary is able to talk about it and be like, hey guys, this is what you missed. Here is Mercedes Moné doing X, Y, and Z. But no, Mercedes thinks that it is very creative to be on the sidelines at the ringside to eat some really overdone steak, or it could have been like a pork chop, because if steak looks like the way that they cut into it, that's not a steak. It looked more like a pork chop. But regardless, it was a dried ass steak. Even I don't like steak like that, but man, I can tell you if it's dry or not. But the point remains is that she thinks it's creative to be at the side of the ring eating food, trying to hype up her match with Toni Storm. And it's like, yes, this is going to sell tickets. Eating steak, letting people know that she has money and prestige and all the materialistic things that you cannot buy because she's Mercedes Moné. She has all the money in the world. You guys should really be like, hey, this character doesn't really represent me, or this character really doesn't do it for me, because she's really looking down on people who cannot really buy a steak. Like, she's Mercedes Moné and she has all this money and she wants you to pay $99 to talk to her assistant. That is very materialistic. no one really gravitates towards that unless you want to be the popular girl and still the materialistic things. And we're still glorifying that, you got to get the latest handbag. You got to get the latest makeup, the latest jewelry. You have to look fly. If not, you're going to be a loser. That's how Mercedes sees everything, especially when she's belt collecting. Everybody is a loser. She's not really elevating. She's all in it for herself and is not really even a good character to be that narcissistic. And then if we call it out, we're the bad guys. So her having all the belts doesn't help. Her having all the belts really does make her look small. So optic wise, it doesn't look well. This is why you don't put Camille on the sidelines, because at least Camille could have carried some of the belts, even though that's a bad look too, because she's not getting a shot at those belts. But, if somebody was writing the good stories, then maybe we could have had Camille come in and be the bodyguard still, hold those championship titles for Mercedes Moné, and later on be like, I want to challenge for this specific title and take it off of her and give it to Camille. But, Tony Khan is the best booker in the world. AEW sickos will always tell you that. And whoever is doing the writing and the matchmaking, they don't know what they're doing. Because you could create little tiny stories out of this to get the championship titles off of Mercedes Moné. Again, this isn't my favorite thing to talk about. It is very frustrating. It is very what is happening in the world of professional wrestling? Why is this happening? Why is she getting all the belts? There is nothing logical about this. And if you do have some type of rebuttal to this, please keep it civil, because I rather hear facts over feelings when it comes to Mercedes Moné carrying all the belts. It does not elevate women. It does not elevate a division. You have to create story. You have to create intrigue. And you have to at least have some drama within these stories to elevate women. Even in defeat, you should be elevating other women. Oh, and by the way, I did another AEW chat with the lovely and wonderful Courtney Rice over from Women's Wrestling Talk. And we talked about the women's division. We talked about Mercedes Moné. That episode is also in the back catalog of the Square Circle podcast, which is out on all platforms, including Spotify, YouTube, and Substack. I'm going to continue talking about AEW for a little bit, because there is a specific question that I asked on the Twitter timeline, and surprisingly, crickets. No supposed AEW sicko can answer this question. And if you can answer it, please leave it down in the comments below, whether that is on YouTube, on Spotify, and Substack, and anywhere else. Just follow the links if you want to leave a comment. The question is this. Whenever we talk about AEW, and whenever myself or someone else in the community that has common sense and a good head on their shoulders brings up a topic about numbers, about AEW storytelling, and whenever we're like, hey, what are some good stories? Why is a talking point just two things out of everything that has ever happened post CM Punk era? Because if we go before CM Punk era, AEW was good for at least the first 2.5 years. That other half of the year, where we get to year 3, 4, 5, it starts declining. And it declined way more in storytelling ability after CM Punk era. So my question is, how come AEW fans, the ones that love AEW the most, why is it that you guys would say that the two best stories that has ever happened in AEW has been or have been Hangman Adam Page versus Swerve and Toni Storm versus Mariah May? Why are those the only two stories you guys can think of post CM Punk era? I would just like a discussion, an open discussion, open format. The comments are down below, because if you really want people to be reinvested into AEW, AEW should have some more greatest hits, if we're really being honest. And if those are the only two that you can come up with, those are not really doing anything justice. Why is the women's division only revolving around Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné at this very moment? Why is the stories right now revolving around Hangman Adam Page and his sporadicness and him trying so hard to be a cowboy and him virtue singling and John Moxley and the Death Riders? Well, really, no one has anything positive to say, just negative stuff because John Moxley doesn't even know what he's doing. And it's like there's so many things all over the board when it comes to AEW storytelling that even I can't be like, hey, you know what? Recently, this story was fantastic. And I don't know the story because they don't know how to tell stories. But the question still remains, why is Hangman versus Swerve and Toni Storm versus Mariah May, why are those always the two talking points when you want to know, hey, what has AEW done in terms of good storytelling? And, you know, I understand that on Twitter, some people just have a limited amount of characters because they're not going to get the blue check mark. It still doesn't matter. You can use up as many tweets as you want, and I will go through all of them and I will comment. I will read all of them. Space is no issue. It looks very childish when you're like, you have to watch AEW, you have to watch the whole show. How dare you don't know the stories? Hangman versus Swerve and Toni Storm versus Mariah May are the greatest stories ever. And it's like, but AEW has been around for 6 years. So what have they been doing for the past 6 years that you and AEW sicko, part of the AEW fandom, what has AEW been doing for the past 6 years that those two stories are the only two that you can think of? When, again, I don't want to do the but WWE thing. Over on the WWE side, we could name a good handful that surpasses 2 stories, even 2 good stories. And so that is my question. I would just like an open discussion down in the comments below. Let's talk about some New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I'm going to say it again. New Japan, what are you doing? What are we doing, New Japan? What are we doing? If you guys don't know, and I'm going to be very, very honest with you guys, I still love New Japan Pro Wrestling. I still think that we could get back to a place and time where the majority of the stories made sense. The majority of the guys that were going for championship titles and making stories and all these angles, like, I believe that we can get back to making New Japan feel very, very special because New Japan has a very special place in my heart because of the storytelling ability that everyone put in the work to create. And that is why I fell in love with New Japan Pro Wrestling. And it's just because of the storytelling, the characters, the way I could connect with them, the way that they did their storytelling and all the angles. And I know I'm repeating myself, but just hear me out. I still believe in New Japan Pro Wrestling. They need to break away from AEW. It's really sad to think that AEW took all of their top stars, regardless or not of the news, because it still has not been confirmed. But because TJP wants to just air out all dirty laundry, had put out a tweet on top of Super J-Cast explaining how Bushiroad has like $1 million in their safe and they don't want to pay the guys. And I'm paraphrasing. I'm not even reading the tweet verbatim. But the fact remains is that, I should say the point is that the knowledge to know that Bushiroad has all this money kept somewhere, but they don't want to pay the guys. They don't want to pay the gaijin that comes through New Japan Pro Wrestling is wrong, because that is your lifeline and lifeblood, because wrestling can only go so far in Japan. Not everybody is privy to Japanese wrestling. The same thing with sumo wrestling. While the sports are there, Japan can't really grow its sports the same way that America has grown its sports and how big we have grown the sports. And you do need to step outside the comfort zone. And Japan definitely did that with New Japan Strong. But the moment that the main guy that was taking care of everything decided to go to a different promotion to get better experience, get better exposure, and become a better referee over there, they decided to just be like, oh, we're not doing New Japan Strong anymore. We're going to shut that down. All those weekly episodes we're going to shut down, but we're going to try to bank on the pay-per-views once a month, and nobody is respecting those pay-per-views. And it's like, you guys didn't really think this through. There are people, me included, that would have loved the position to have New Japan Strong keep going in the States and get a foothold for New Japan Strong in the States. But management will just focus on hiring guys for some odd reason when people have a perfectly good resume like I do, won't get the position. And that's not me being bitter or anything like that. It's me just pointing out a fact of life in the whirlwind of professional wrestling, not trying to make myself a victim or anything like that. It's to put things into perspective. They decided to let that go because, yes, I do get it that it could have been a money issue to just run the operations in the United States, but you have to take that risk. If you're willing to be a business owner, you have to take the risk. And sometimes you're going to be in the red. A lot more times you're going to be in the green. But once you get your groove, you'll end up being in the green. So imagine if we still had a rotation of New Japan Strong shows where we get to showcase the free agents who aren't going to sign an AEW contract, who aren't going to sign an MLW contract, who aren't going to sign any of the other smaller promotions around the 50 states. If they're not going to sign a contract, you bring them over to New Japan Strong, you give them a contract with some guaranteed money, and they're on rotation. They're on these shows. They get a platform. We get to use social media to our advantage. We get to use YouTube because I don't think you're going to get a TV deal of like, hey, guys, hear me out. I have Japanese wrestling with some American wrestlers mixed with like other wrestlers, and Japanese wrestlers will appear from time to time. I think that, you know, your network would be good for it. That may or may not happen. It would be nice if it did, but I don't know what network out there would want Japanese wrestling on their network. Access TV did it for a while with New Japan Pro Wrestling, but that fell through only because negotiations probably didn't take place as it should have. But you use social media to your advantage, and by word of mouth, that will get big and people will talk about it and more people will come out. And if you do media spots in very good locations with very good podcasters that don't have an agenda and podcasters that, you know, won't check up on you like 6 months or 3 months later, and they're just being like, oh yeah, I'm just doing this for the numbers. No, you need people that will be invested into the product that you are trying to ship around. So you use social media to your advantage. You use the good podcasters and the good influencers who care about a product. And there you go. You might have the winning formula to one day get maybe a TV deal by word of mouth with all the hard work. And that is what New Japan Strong needed. New Japan Strong needed a strong guiding person that understands social media, audiences, talk to people. Like, you really have to get out there and talk to people. You can't just really just stay on the internet and be like, hey, what do you think about New Japan Pro Wrestling? Because then you'll get the bots, you'll get the fake people, you'll get the people that are bought for, you'll get the people that are like, will curse you out. But if you go out to the streets, out to reality, and you're like, hey, do you know anything about Japanese wrestling? You can have a good conversation with people. Even if you go to wrestling shows, you can have a good conversation with people and see where they're at financially, see where they're at mentally when it comes to like, hey, do you enjoy WWE more? Do you know about MLW? Do you know about New Japan Pro Wrestling? What do you know about AEW? Like, once you start talking about these topics and giving questions, people will be a lot more easier to tell you information, and you can gauge more or less of like, okay, maybe Japanese wrestling isn't for them, but you can try to encourage them to seek it out if they ever want to. And that if a wrestling date is coming up for promoting New Japan Strong, it'd be like, here, you know what, come by the show, it'll be great to have you there. I do the same shit at MLW where I'm like, thanks for coming along, guys, I appreciate it. Or I tell people that like, hey, the best experience to experience MLW is live and in person. That is the best experience ever. Anyway, not to get sidetracked, but you see all the ideas. You see how like happy I get when I'm like, hey, we could have taken New Japan Strong to new heights. But I get it. It could have been a cost production. That's like the one thing I'm going with. Or it could have just been leadership and management was like, no, we don't want to, but we're going to try to bank on those pay-per-views. And you cannot bank on the pay-per-views for New Japan Strong when you don't have a foundation. When people don't know shit about what's going on and you're not doing recaps, you're just like, hey, we want your money. And that's a bad thing to do with the American people and just say, yo, we want your money. You better come to the event. It's New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's Japanese wrestling. We have the Young Bucks. You guys remember the Young Bucks, right? They were in Bullet Club. They were in Hot Topic. You could have got all of their shirts. But what they don't tell you is that they got kicked out and they burned a damn bridge with New Japan Pro Wrestling. But Tanahashi is like, friends, come on in. But it's like they bank on certain nostalgia names to try to get you to go. Can't even fill the arena that they have. And it's very, very sad that they are trying to bank on New Japan Strong pay-per-views and bank on your money. And all I'm going to say is that even though I love New Japan Pro Wrestling, I want them to succeed. Just be a little bit more smarter with your money. If you want change in professional wrestling, you use your wallet. Simple as that. And it might seem like I'm going against the one company that I love. It's not. It's like, hey, you guys got to stop using us. You guys have to listen to us because we are seeing in real time what AEW is doing to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and it is strangling them, and they don't understand. And I bring up all of this because none of it makes sense. There's no logic behind it. And as I say all of that, and you have this all in your mind, I am not sure who on my listening list or listener list watched Dominion, because usually Dominion pay-per-views in Japan from New Japan Pro Wrestling will have like maybe one or two shocking moments. Why do I feel like half the show was full of shock for the sake of shock? Like, what are we doing? Is the end goal still trying to dismantle? I was about to say delete. Is the end goal still trying to kick out Bullet Club and not House of Torture, when House of Torture has grown in members and Bullet Club War Dogs is going to eventually disband just by the way that they're booking them? And I'm so sad because nothing is true. Nothing is confirmed. But seriously, if you put two and two together, it's like Bullet Club War Dogs is one of the hottest acts in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And the way they're booking them is like, what are they doing? You have Gabe Kidd running around with AEW and Jon Moxley, and I'm still not sure if he said anything about why he joined Jon Moxley. I have to go back and watch the interview, the press conference, and joining Jon Moxley in AEW and was like, abandon all hope. And it's like, Gabe, what are you doing? I understand that you're just taking a paycheck, but please be consistent in your character and in your motivations. You can't just tell the Japanese people that Japan is number one. New Japan is number one. This is my home. I'm the greatest New Japan wrestler. And you go off to fight another battle in another team that makes no sense. That all you guys are looking the same because all you guys are bald right now. But like, you run off to AEW to another team for what? And I'm still going to think that some traitorous moves that you're leaving David Finlay and you're like the number one, his soldier, and you're leaving David to go with Jon Moxley. That's such traitor business to me. I would legit have trust issues. Let me go through these headlines and give you my honest opinion on Dominion. It definitely did not feel like a Dominion. There was way too many head-scratching surprises for the sake of surprising, because I don't think New Japan knows what they're doing anymore. So DOUKI returns. Congratulations on DOUKI returning. DOUKI had a very scary accident, which New Japan has not even told us what kind of accident it was, but he hurt his arm when he decided to do a jump over the turnbuckle, and he hit El Desperado when he was having his match against him for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship title, and it looked like his arm, maybe his elbow dislocated, and that was it. They rushed him to the back and they took care of him, and he hasn't said a word since. But on June 15th, which was Dominion, he comes in and returns. And I believe, judging from this picture, because it looks like Kanemaru over there is injured and has his arm in a sling, I'm guessing it's Kanemaru, that DOUKI comes in as a sub and is teaming with House of Torture show. And it's like, why are we putting DOUKI in House of Torture? Why are we doing that? He is a fan favorite. He is lovable. And he was on a very good journey, but he joined House of Torture. I like House of Torture, but House of Torture doesn't need DOUKI. So DOUKI and Show become the new IWGP Junior Tag Team Champions. And just 4 guys is disband. They disbanded once Ishii and Taichi become the new IWGP World Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. Those two, an unlikely team, an unlikely duo, Taichi and Ishii dethroning Callan Newman and the Great O'Khan of the United Empire. And what? Okay, it is what it is. We have new IWGP World Tag Team Champions, and yeah. By the way, I do think the United Empire should officially break up. I really do. The next headline is Oleg getting the Never Openweight Championship title. He dethroned Konosuke, which is a good thing on my part. However, people like to really overrate Bolton Oleg. He is nothing special. He's just another grappler that is fitting for the Japanese culture and the Japanese wrestling, but there's nothing intriguing or motivating or just something to be like, yeah, I want to get behind him. We've all seen the same moves. We all seen the same technical prowess, and I love technical wrestling. You guys know this. However, he's not as good as you think he is. He needs some more work. He needs to be polished. He needs to have at least a personality or something, but he's very forgettable. So even though he's holding the Never Openweight Championship title, that's okay. And then, maybe Drilla Maloney could come in and take that belt from him, because Drilla has a lot more personality than anything else that I've seen in wrestling, and I enjoy it. So there's that. The next headline is Evil defeats Finlay in a dog collar change death match. And that is because we had 2 people from Bullet Club joining House of Torture. That is Fale and Chase Owens, but no one cares about him. So I don't know why they're doing this. I don't know why they are putting more members in House of Torture. That does not make any sense. If you just wanted to disband Bullet Club, if you really wanted Bullet Club out of New Japan Pro Wrestling, that dog pound cage match with the stipulation of if Bullet Club loses, they disband. You guys, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Tanahashi, Gato, Kadani, and who else am I missing? Because I usually tag maybe one more member. But anyway, you main guys who take care of the wrestlers and the stories and everything like that. Like, you guys take care of the talent. Oh, and I'll call out Bushiroad too. You guys listen up. If you guys wanted Bullet Club out of New Japan Pro Wrestling, you guys should have gave the victory over the House of Torture during the dog pound cage match. So that way Finlay, Clark, Drilla, and Gabe can go on their way, or they could just do, hey, that's fine. We are War Dogs. We made a name for ourselves. Like, you guys don't understand how much I love War Dogs. Like, I love the concept of it. I love the idea of it. I love that Finlay took control of something and he put himself in the spotlight, and through his hard work, we're now talking about him, and he's at the table of discussion when it comes to a leader of Bullet Club and also a leader of his own team, aka War Dogs. And I like the motto of him saying that you either bring bodies or you bring gold. That was beautiful for the first year. But then in the second year, why are they declining? They shouldn't be declining. They should be one of the top heel factions, and House of Torture should be right behind them. And we should get some other teams to be like underneath all of that. And then the baby faces go back and forth, and you create one of the best storylines ever in writing history, storytelling history, which is good versus evil. No pun intended to Evil himself being the leader of House of Torture, but you get the idea, right? Like, I really do love Bullet Club, and I love everybody in it. I really do. I just question everything that they do because there's no logic behind it. So I have not watched the match. Maybe I should watch the match, critique it, and put it on Tape Study Series, which I will be explaining about all of my shows in the next podcast episode. I don't want to overwhelm you guys. But for this headline, Evil defeats Finley in the dog collar chain death match. 2 new members of House of Torture for no reason. You know, if you don't want Bullet Club anymore, you guys should just disband and just say that's what it is. Now, the next headline is Gabe Kidd captures the global gold, which is cool and all. I just, I've seen the match before between Gabe and Suji, and I like these two guys, but you really cannot convince me that this was meaningful just because of like their past history, but they didn't do any build up. While Gabe Kidd is in bed with AEW, and then Suji did some other country outreach media kind of deal. And it's like, you guys have a championship title that you need to build up and create story and be like, this is why you need to watch us. Don't you dare change the channel. Make sure you get a subscription to New Japan Pro Wrestling for $9.99. Like, they didn't do any of that. So Gabe Kidd winning, congratulations to Gabe for getting the global heavyweight championship title, but it doesn't feel like, yay. It feels like, awesome. Now what? And moments like that should not be having me feel like that or even say things like that. But that's how it just comes off, as if like we're supposed to be celebrating this. It's supposed to be very meaningful, but like the build up, everything that's happened. And then I think that because of Gabe losing to Kenny Omega during Wrestle Dynasty, that was a really downward spiral for that, for his character, his motivation, and everything like that. And he rather joined the other side just because of the paycheck, rather than sticking to his guns and being the madman that we know and being like, yeah, I'm going to call out all of the stupidity the same way that everyone else is doing it, because we're seeing it in real time. Don't flip-flop just for the paycheck. If you were going to do that, then you should have never called out Tony Khan. You should have never said he was a money mark. You should have never talked shit about AEW if you knew further down the line you're going to be like, oh my God, how many zeros does that paycheck have? Ooh, oh my God, let me get that zero. And then be like, nah, guys, I'm here in AEW. No one understands what's happening. You guys better abandon all hope. Like, I just can't deal with the flip-flop of everything. I just can't. But that's that headline. Oh, and there's going to be the first ever title defense for the Global Heavyweight Championship title. It's going to be Gabe Kidd versus Tanahashi. And I really laughed at that when my buddy tagged me on Twitter, because that's just a laughable moment. How did we get here? It doesn't feel like there's urgency. It doesn't feel like there's creativity behind it. It doesn't feel like I should watch it. I should support it. Tanahashi is on his retirement tour the same way that John Cena is on his retirement tour. And John Cena just feels a lot more like, yo, I have to watch what Cena does for his final appearances. Tanahashi is like, I get it. He's the president. And I respect that, and I'm always going to respect that. But at the same time, it's like, it doesn't feel special that he's retiring. It doesn't feel like how I feel when I know John Cena is probably going to retire, even though wrestlers say, never say never, and wrestlers always come back for some reason. But the idea of that, I get to feel that Cena may not ever step into a ring again and stay true to his word, and he does stay true to his word, it holds a lot more weight than Tanahashi's retirement tour. I just want to put that into perspective. Also, Goto has retained the IWGP Championship title, which is to be expected. And his next opponent is Zack Sabre Jr. Why is Zack Sabre Jr. getting the most opportunities out of everybody on that roster to face Goto? Why? Where is the opportunity for Tsuji? Where is the opportunity for David Finlay? Where is the opportunity for Jola Maloney? Where is the opportunity for Clark Connors? Where is the opportunity for Hiromu, of all people, that has given his blood, sweat, and tears to fight in New Japan Pro Wrestling? Where is the opportunity for all of these guys? What makes Zack Sabre Jr. so fucking special that he gets opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, and he doesn't even have to qualify for an opportunity to face Goto and that IWGP World Heavyweight Championship title? I understand that they weren't going to give it to Shingo, but Shingo, in a very great effort, put up against Goto. These guys know each other. But again, why are we only circulating around Shingo, around Zack Sabre Jr., maybe Shota for a little bit? Like, why is David Finlay and everybody else not getting a chance at that IWGP World Heavyweight Championship title? By the way, I have nothing against Goto. I love Goto. Goto is an amazing wrestler, and he is an amazing teacher. And the amount of people that he took under his wing to become a professional wrestler in New Japan Pro Wrestling, a.k.a. Tama Tonga, he took him under his wing and helped him out. But again, why is Zack Sabre Jr. the only one getting these opportunities and nobody else? How come Robbie Eagle hasn't gotten an opportunity against the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship title? I understand that the word heavyweight is in that name, but at this point, let it be a free-for-all because AEW took all the main top stars. Let's talk about this G1 Climax. We are currently up to the G1 Climax 35. And boy, does this not look interesting at all. It really doesn't. So for this, I'm going to sit out as well. I am probably going to sit out on this one too. So let me just go over this. So for Block A, we have Goto, our IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, Bolton Oleg, the new never openweight championship title holder, Yuya Uemura, Yota Tsuji, David Finlay, Evo, Sanada, and Tanahashi. There are 2 free spaces left to qualify for Block A. Now, for B Block, we have El Phantasmo, who apparently recently got hurt. His knee got hurt. So, quick, speedy recovery to El Phantasmo. Shota Umino, Shingo Takagi, Zack Sabre Jr., Great-O-Khan, Gabe Kidd, Ren Narita, and Konosuke. And again, 2 spots are open to qualify for the B block. Now, again, what are we doing? But then again, I probably will say the same question if we had the same older guys in this, like a Tiger Mask, a Hanma, or even a Taguchi. Like, I would have probably said something. But, you know, New Japan Pro Wrestling cannot keep relying on the same people on their roster after AEW took the main important stars that could have still helped elevate New Japan Pro Wrestling, help elevate the other guys, and then when they were able to move on in an appropriate way, New Japan wouldn't feel like it's fucking bare bones. Because right now it feels like it's on bare bones and on life support, which I'm like, New Japan, you guys should do a lot better. Just recently, they had their young lions finally wrestle in front of the Japanese crowd on their tours. And I'm like, you guys should have moved them up already. You cannot move at the same speed as you once did because AEW took almost everything from you guys. And it's kind of sad that Tanahashi was saying in an interview that he is so jealous of the way that WWE produces new WWE stars at a faster rate ready for television, and he's envious of that and he wants to implement that in New Japan Pro Wrestling, but you're having the young lions go very freaking slow, especially if like one of the young lions already has some years under their belt about like wrestling and like knowing what they're doing. Put them on the fucking roster, and that is Zane J, I believe. Yes, I was right. Zane J. I really don't know anything about Zane J, but I did comment on New Japan World when they put up a little snippet of him versus his other Young Lion opponent. And both of them are very solid competitors, especially in the technical department. And you guys, again, know I love technical wrestling. It was great. However, I wanted to see some punches. I wanted to see some, Irish whips into the corner, into a back elbow. And I wanted to see some actual fighting other than like the ground techniques. But seriously, if Tanahashi wanted to invest in the new people that are coming in, tell them to get some actual gear rather than wearing the Young Lion gear and just put them on the roster because you need people right now. You can't go through the traditional steps of like, you are a Young Lion. You only could do this. You have to win this match with a Boston Crab. Those are your moves and you must do it. You guys cannot do that right now. You guys cannot afford to do that right now when you guys are bare bones. And you guys need to start making new stars if you're not going to move around the other wrestlers. Why is Hiromu not in the G1? Why is Robbie Eagles not in the G1? Why is anybody else that has yet to really be on the tours, why are they not in the G1? I get that we have a condensed G1. And I like a condensed G1, but just make it make sense of like, why is this person not here? Why is that person not here? Do we need El Phantasmo in the G1? Do we need Shota Umino in the G1 when Shota Umino should be at AEW confronting the Death Riders? Nothing came about during Wrestle Dynasty, during Wrestle Kingdom, and Shota Umino and this story with Jon Moxley, and he wants to get rid of Jon Moxley. And even though Shota Umino is starting a chapter 2 of his wrestling career, that's always going to linger in the back of his mind as a loose end sort of deal. And here he is, maybe went back to be a babyface and teaming with El Phantasmo and teaming with some other people. But what is Shota Umino doing? What is he doing for his character, for his career, for his story? This is what doesn't make any sense. It's like whoever is booking AEW and is in management position in AEW is doing double duty in New Japan Pro Wrestling. The things that AEW is doing is rubbing off on New Japan, and Tanahashi does not see it. Tanahashi is blind to it. And if Tanahashi has any offense to this, I am very open to discussions about it. We could have a private discussion. We could have a discussion on the Square Circle podcast as an interview. It does not matter. I am not hard to find. You could email me at squaredcirclepodcast@outlook.com. You could DM me over on Twitter at Marie_Shadows. You can find me on Instagram at YourFaveMarieShadows. YourFav Marie Shadows. You can find me on Substack. I am not difficult to find to have a conversation about why New Japan Pro Wrestling is in the state that it is. And again, if Tanahashi, if Ryo Gato, I'm saying his Twitter handle, I'm so sorry. If Tanahashi, Gato, Kadani, Bushi Road, and anyone else in management has a problem with me speaking up and speaking out against New Japan Pro Wrestling and asking questions, we could have that conversation. We could have that open dialogue. Because I want New Japan Pro Wrestling to be around for even more years to come. Because more wrestling equals a very, very good thing. It gives people a lot more opportunities to shine and be in front of different audiences. And who knows, you guys could get a good foothold out here. But you guys have to get out of your own way. That's the thing. New Japan Pro Wrestling needs to get out of their own way. Tanahashi needs to get out of his own way. And sometimes breaking bad habits and breaking habits that have been put in place for years is a very difficult situation. And I understand that. I really do. But you guys have to pivot. You guys really, really have to pivot because, man, Pro Wrestling Noah is going to start becoming number 1 in Japan. And New Japan Pro Wrestling is going to be number 2 in the world of professional wrestling in Japan. How do you guys do that? For years, you guys had the foothold on Pro Wrestling Noah. The moment that Marufuji and Keiji Muto were like, yo, Hunter, what's up? That was it. It was all downhill from there. The moment that New Japan Pro Wrestling and Tanahashi got in bed with AEW, it was all downhill from there too. Like, seriously, for years, New Japan Pro Wrestling was number one in the world of wrestling promotions in Japan. But now it might end up just being Pro Wrestling Noah. And this is a very interesting switch in dynamics. So New Japan Pro Wrestling needs to get out of their own way. This G1 is not really exciting. I love all these guys except for Konosuke. But other than that, like, oh, and Oleg, I really don't care about Oleg. But other than that, oh, and Zack Sabre Jr., somebody would have put that in the comments. Like, oh, you don't like Zack either. But regardless, this G1 is so bare bones. So bare bones. A lot of people are speculating that Konosuke might win the whole thing and tell me to prepare for that. And it's like, you guys are going to hear me rant about it if that happens. Some people are more for Yota Tsuji to win. I want Tsuji to win. I would like David Finlay to win, challenge for that title. And if he doesn't win the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship title, Finlay, just go to WWE, man. Like, I enjoy your work so much. You are a diabolical genius, David Finlay. Just go to WWE, because New Japan don't really care about you as much as I thought they did. Just go to WWE if, like, you don't end up winning the belt, and take War Dogs with you. But yeah, obviously this podcast episode is a little bit more on the emotional side with some facts in it. So take it however you will. Just don't be, you know, a smug little dipshit in the comments. That's all I ask. Other than that, like, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoy a wonderful G1 Climax 35. If there are some matches that are interesting and I want to look at it and talk about it, I will do so. But I am not going to be reviewing the G1 35. As much as I love New Japan Pro Wrestling, as much as I love the G1, as much as I love talking about Japanese wrestling, Tanahashi, my president of New Japan Pro Wrestling, you gotta get out of your own way in order for New Japan Pro Wrestling to survive. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. If you guys enjoyed this episode of the Square Circle Podcast by me talking about wrestling for a little bit, thank you for sharing it out. On the next episode, it will be a lot more shorter. I'm going to be introducing the new shows that I am creating, the stuff I've been creating in the background, and just a bunch of different stuff that I've been looking at on social media and why I'm going to be pivoting my content. And I really would love you guys along for the ride for as long as I do this. It's been 6 years that I've been covering professional wrestling. I'm still going to cover professional wrestling. That's my number one love. But I am going to be adding some interesting shows, some interesting content, some interesting editorials where I talk about stuff that I want to talk about other than professional wrestling and give a different perspective to it and give a different uniqueness to it. If you guys already know and you guys saw the episode that I dropped out of Ringology where I talk about wrestling terms 101 and we started with the word work and what work means in professional wrestling, that is a little taste of what I have coming up with more about Ringology, tape study series, and the brand new interview series, which I finally found a name for it, and it is going to stay because I just tend to want to have a fresh coat or a fresh paint or a fresh up on certain things if it just dies. And this time I found the perfect name for the interview series. It's called Crossroads. It has nothing to do with Cody Rhodes. But in the next episode, which I hope you guys tune in on Spotify, YouTube, and Substack, and everywhere else, I will have all information there. So stay tuned for that. If you guys enjoyed this little catch up of pro wrestling, thank you so much. Again, let me know what pro wrestling shows you're watching down in the comments below. If you are a AEW fan, please answer those questions. And if you have any comments at all, please leave them down in the comments below. I will be reading everything. I will be commenting on everything. I truly do welcome open discussion. I just don't like it when people want to name call, want to get nasty, want to get verbal for no reason. And when I say verbal, I mean taking it from 0 to 100 when that doesn't need to happen, where it's very, very unnecessary. I do welcome open dialogue, but don't be an idiot about it. That's all I'm saying. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find me on Instagram, your fave Marie Shadows. You can sign up to the newsletter at marieshadows.substack.com. You could also hit that follow button, that like button, and also subscribe to youtube.com/Square Circle Podcast. And if you want to take your free subscription to a paid subscription, just hit that join button on the YouTube channel as well. If you're over on Spotify, you can listen to all episodes for free on Spotify and all other podcasting platforms. I appreciate everyone listening to this around the world. And look down into the comments and into the description box for all of my other links to support myself, the Square Circle Podcast, where you can get merch. New merch is dropping, so be on the lookout for that. But yes, make sure to check out all of the links, because this helps me pay the bills for what I do and what I love to do. And I'm glad that you are here with me along for the ride. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to an episode of the Square Circle Podcast, hosted by yours truly, Marie Shadows, and I'll see you guys on the next one.